Hey there, as wedding photographers, we love taking the photos, but the bottleneck in our workflow is the culling process. It takes us forever to cull, but in my workflow, I have learned how to cull a full wedding day within 24 hours of shooting the wedding. And I'm going to tell you my tips and tricks to make it a possibility for your own workflow. Hey there, I'm Katelyn, and I'm so excited that you have found my YouTube channel. This is where we teach and inspire and educate photographers. We empower them to build profitable and purposeful businesses while also sharing a little behind the scenes into our everyday life. And I'm talking today about how I cull weddings so quickly. So when I photograph a wedding, and I don't shoot like 4-hour wedding days, I'm normally shooting for 8 to 10, maybe even 11 hours. We're talking 4,000, 5,000 images, and sometimes that's at a minimum. The amazing thing is even though I'm an overshooter, I can still have my weddings culled within 24 hours of shooting the wedding. The reason why I cull within 24 hours of shooting the wedding is because I actually blog the wedding within 48 hours of shooting the wedding. Why? There is a golden window of impact. There's a golden window of impact when people are really excited about what just happened. The couple, the family, the bridesmaids, everyone. Use that 48-hour window of impact when people are still on a high from what they experienced that weekend, and then produce a beautiful visual storyline of the highlights of the day. Vendors love it. Venues love it. Couples are freaking out over it. We have trained our KJ couples to expect every Tuesday morning. That is when their blog post goes live. If you're a KJ bride, you get to see the visual story of your day on Tuesday following your wedding. Anyone can create a system like this, but it's not just because of that marketing power that you should do this. You should also do this because when you have a fast workflow and you can deliver a wedding, here's the thing. I cull a wedding within 24 hours. I blog the best of the best within 48. My galleries are delivered, full galleries, done with the wedding. Everything is done within 7 days. That's amazing. It's amazing because it gives me my life back. And so that's why I am so passionate about this, because when I have a workflow like this, I've done this for 12 years. 12 years I've done this workflow, and I've seen so many other people. I have multiple kids. I have a crazy life, but I can still make this happen, because when I make this happen, I get what I ultimately want, and that is freedom from being chained to my laptop after I photograph a wedding. The first way to not be chained to your laptop is to have a system for culling that works. Tip number 1 is that when you're at the reception, whether it's you running back to your laptop here and there in between songs during the reception, or I prefer to use a second shooter. Have a second shooter go to your laptop, take your laptop to the wedding. This is the first step, really. My husband, who's my second shooter, will take this drive, take my laptop, and card by card, he uploads the entire wedding day to the hard drive while I'm photographing the reception. He's photographing the reception too, but he will come in and out. We all know that there are parts of the reception where you don't need to have 2 photographers shooting full time during the whole thing. So use your second shooter's time wisely and have them back up all of your images, upload them to your hard drive. This is the number 1 reason why I think I cull so quickly, because a lot of times photographers go home and they have to spend so much time just uploading and backing up their cards. By the time they get their cards uploaded, they are not motivated to cull at all. So a lot of times when we leave a wedding, the card that I was shooting the exit with, that needs to be uploaded, but that's it. I'm leaving the wedding knowing that nothing is corrupt, knowing that everything is backed up, and knowing that I can start the culling process immediately. So tip number 2. Start culling when you're excited about it. When you shoot a wedding day and you know, oh, that was a pocket of great portraits, or like, oh, I think those ring shots were good. You're excited about it. But if you wait too long, that excitement drains. You're further removed from the event, and you're going to neglect culling because there's no motivation to get it done. So what does this look like? Well, recently I went to a wedding. I photographed a wedding in Boston. So we live in Richmond, Virginia. Boston was obviously a flight away. So we flew up to this wedding. We flew back the next day right after it happened. But after the wedding reception was over, it was a long day. And even though we were exhausted, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I shoot an entire wedding day, there is a level of adrenaline that is pumping through my veins for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours after the reception is over. It's really hard for me to just leave a reception where there's high energy and lights and music and just go back to my hotel and immediately go to sleep. When that's happening, I'm laying in bed and I'm culling while I have a chance. If it is only 15 minutes before I feel exhausted and want to go to bed, that's fine. But 15 minutes of culling, 20 minutes of culling, 10 minutes of culling, I make myself do that because I know ultimately I have a goal. Hey guys, we're back in our hotel room. It is, what time is it? It is 11:30. We left a little later than we were supposed to. So we just ordered room service because we didn't eat that much during the reception because we were so busy. So that means I have like 20 minutes to wait until they come up with our food. So I'm gonna change clothes and get in bed and start culling. It's not ideal, it's late. It was a hard wedding day, but I know that if I can get like at least the reception called, I'll feel so much more motivated to get closer. I cull backwards, so get closer to the fun part of culling, which is portrait time. So next day, on a flight, we load onto the flight. I have 20 minutes before everyone else is loaded, before they tell me to put my laptop away. I'm going to be culling. Why? Because that's my opportunity to get a head start. 10 minutes right after we leave the reception before I go to bed, 10 minutes, 15 minutes on the airplane, couple more like 10, 15 minutes while we're in the air. It's a really short flight from Boston to Richmond, but a couple 15-minute sessions here and there, all of a sudden, I'm almost to the ceremony. But those aren't just the only examples and the only tips. The third tip is you got to use Photo Mechanic. If you have never used Photo Mechanic and you have no idea what Photo Mechanic is, basically Photo Mechanic is this brilliant program that allows you to see fully rendered raw files full screen, and you can click through those files so fast. I've never been able to cull so quickly in Lightroom or any other program. Bridge, it's not the same. Photo Mechanic is an incredible program that I use to cull and to sort my images to prepare them to go into Lightroom. I do not take every single image that I shot into Lightroom. That doesn't make any sense. I've been using Photo Mechanic for over a decade and I love it. I can't imagine culling without it. I'm going to show you what I mean. So this is what it looks like inside Photo Mechanic. And I'm not going to give you a full Photo Mechanic demonstration because that's not what this video is about, but I do want to show you the speed in which I can cull. This was the flower girl. She was adorable. Now I have already called this wedding, so this would just be looking for extra good ones. This is just to show you how fast I can click through these images. So let's say, oh, we like this image. Zoom in, I click Z. That's a little soft, but that one looks cute. I can quickly go through these images. I can see which ones I want to check. Okay, that's in focus. I can star that. But there's no lag time for the image to resolve. It is fast, it's efficient, and allows me to cull with speed like I've never seen before. I've never been able to cull as fast as I can in Photo Mechanic in Lightroom. I was never able to cull that fast. The other thing that I wanted to show you is basically the concept, which leads me to point number 4, I believe, is that you want to cull backwards. So when you're photographing a wedding day, you may not realize this, but when you're shooting, most of the time, when you're tweaking details, when you're setting up a bridal party, when you're adjusting a pose, when you're adjusting your settings, your best images are more towards the end of the set of images from that part of the day, not the beginning. The beginning is full of a lot of shots that are maybe slightly off just a little bit. And so when you cull backwards to forwards, you are not only moving towards the prettiest part of the day, you are also more likely to actually select the best images first, and then you skip over the ones that aren't that great. Whereas if you cull from the beginning to end, you're going to select the first image that seems decent when really they're going to be better ones if you just keep going. The other reason why this is really important, and it's a great tip to start using in your workflow, is because when you are culling from the reception to bridal details, you're motivated to get to the pretty stuff. I do not like culling receptions. I don't really know anybody who loves culling receptions. It's just so boring. But I do that first because I know if I get through that, then I'll get through family formals, which that is the worst thing to cull. But then I'm moving towards the prettiest part of the day, the sunset portraits, the details, the bride getting in her dress, the portraits of them with their bridal party in natural light. Like, I want to get to those portraits. And so I don't want to start with that, because guess what happens when you start with the pretty and then you get tired and you start to procrastinate and you're like, I don't want to finish this culling process. I've been doing this for an hour. you shut your computer and it's really hard to get motivated to open it back up to color reception. So color reception first. Color reception before you're sick of culling, because then you're moving towards something that you actually want to look through. You want to find the best of the best. You want to find those shots that make you really proud. So also another tip is tip number 5. When you are culling and you know that you have an end game of getting these final culled images into Lightroom, final process of culling for me is to sort into subfolders. I would never take a collection of 1,200 final images and upload that into like one bulk folder into Lightroom. I want to take those 1,200 final images that I just culled and I want to divide them up into categories. And if you look on the screen, these are the categories that I use. So I'm using bridal details, bridal party, bride and groom, ceremony, cocktail hour, dances, toast, cake, details, family formals, pre-ceremony, and reception. I love these subfolders because what happens is when I get this finally into Lightroom, I have these subcategories where I can start to edit through and not feel overwhelmed. When I look at a folder of 1,200 images, that seems overwhelming. But a folder of 45 details, that's not bad. I could edit that before dinner. Oh, 55 images from cocktail hour, I can edit that before I have to go out to a shoot tomorrow night. Like I can allow myself to get more done when I can compartmentalize and create little tiny goals instead of one massive goal. Another side tip is I just keep a folder, a collection of these folders on my desktop. It's kind of like a template. So when it comes time to sort, I'm not going to Dan and Melanie's 5-star culled folder and creating a new folder and titling it Bridal Details, creating another folder, titling it Bride and Groom. I just take my collection of subfolder templates and I just copy and paste them into this folder. So simple, right? It's a simple concept, but saves me several minutes. And the more minutes that you can save, the closer you're going to get to being able to get your weddings turned around in record time. I love this process. I love being able to cull and get on with my blog posts and then get on with my life. If you struggle with this, if you're a wedding photographer and you think, man, Katelyn, I am so good at doing just that, being a wedding photographer, I can capture days like I want. I love capturing wedding days. But when it comes to the workflow, when it comes to the editing, there's nothing consistent about what I do. And that results in a hot mess of a business. You get back from a wedding, you're proud of yourself for what you've accomplished, but then you get back to your office and nothing seems to get done. It just piles up and piles up and piles up. Clients don't hear from you for weeks. Blog posts never get done. You don't ever market with the images that you just shot. You don't ever get any return for your time and your effort and your work. There's no system that's allowing you to thrive when it comes to creating these final galleries, getting these blog posts out. If you struggle with that and you are ready for a change, I'm so excited to tell you we have the KJ Consistency Course 2.0 coming at you really soon. It is an amazing course where I teach you everything I know about Lightroom, my editing process, how you can create your own style and your own editing process that you can consistently repeat over and over again. I'm also going to show you how I cull, how I curate, and how I do my 48-hour workflow where I get a blog post up and I get a final gallery done 48 hours after the wedding day. If you want to learn more about that, there's a link below where you can learn more. It's going to be available very soon, and I'm so excited to have that resource out. So thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful. I love talking about this stuff, and there's so much more that I could share about culling that would help you grow in your speed and the consistency in your workflow. But I'm going to let you go for now. It's already a long video. I really would love to hear any questions you have, whether it's about the gear I use, any questions about the 5 tips that I shared. Leave them in the comments below, and I will see you next time.